Imagine living in a grand house with every comfort you could want inside. But there's a catch. The only way to reach your own backyard is by walking through your neighbor's property. It's a strange arrangement, but it works, so long as everyone gets along. That's the situation between the United States and Alaska. Alaska is a vast, resource-rich state, but it's separated from the rest of the US by hundreds of miles of Canadian land. To get from one part of the country to another, you have to cross an international border, just like walking through your neighbor's yard to reach your own. The only practical land route is the Alaska Highway, a ribbon of road that winds through the wilds of British Columbia and the Yukon before finally reaching Alaska. This highway isn't just a stretch of pavement, it's a vital artery for supplies, trade, and travel. Every day, trucks loaded with groceries, fuel, and building materials make the long journey north, while families and tourists follow in RVs and cars, eager to explore the last frontier or reunite with loved ones. For many, this road is more than just a way to get from point A to point B. It's a lifeline that connects isolated communities, supports local economies, and keeps families together on both sides of the border. Alaskans depend on the steady flow of goods and visitors. Without this connection, store shelves would go empty, construction would grind to a halt, and families would be cut off from each other. The highway also fuels tourism, bringing adventurers from around the world to experience the breathtaking landscapes and unique roadside communities. Local businesses, from gas stations to diners, rely on this steady stream of travelers. But the Alaska Highway is more than commerce and convenience. It's a symbol of international cooperation, a daily handshake between the US and Canada, built on trust and mutual respect. Small towns in the Yukon and Alaska thrive on this shared flow of people and goods, their economies and cultures intertwined by the road that links them. When the border closes or the road is blocked, it's not just an inconvenience. It's a crisis for thousands who depend on this unique connection for their livelihoods, their families, and their way of life. The open road represents more than just access. It's a rare arrangement in a world where borders often divide. Here, it's a symbol of trust, openness, and the willingness to work together. For Americans, reaching Alaska by road means passing through a foreign country, relying on the goodwill and cooperation of their Canadian neighbors. It's a journey made possible only by decades of partnership. Any closure or new barrier sends shockwaves far beyond the highway, threatening not just businesses, but the spirit of partnership that makes this connection possible. The Alaska Highway is a powerful reminder that geography can bind nations together, or pull them apart. In this remote corner of the world, a single road carries the hopes, dreams, and futures of two countries, proving that sometimes the path between neighbors is more than just a road. On June 9, 2025, Canada made a stunning and unexpected move, temporarily blocking a key land route for US commercial trucks and non-essential travelers heading to Alaska. The usually busy border crossing, a lifeline for both nations, suddenly ground to a halt, leaving many stunned and scrambling for answers. Alaskans with proper identification and those transporting essential goods were still allowed to pass, but the main artery connecting Alaska to the rest of the US was abruptly restricted. For many, this meant hours of waiting, confusion, and uncertainty about when or if they would be able to continue their journey. Canada cited ongoing trade disputes and the imposition of new US tariffs as the primary reasons for the blockade, using the highway as powerful leverage in a high-stakes economic standoff. The move sent shockwaves through both countries, with news outlets and social media buzzing about the escalating tensions. The impact was immediate and far-reaching. Truckers found themselves stranded for days, families' long-planned vacations were ruined, and businesses that relied on cross-border trade were thrown into chaos, facing mounting losses and uncertainty. The world's longest undefended border, once a symbol of cooperation and trust, became a point of conflict overnight. The sudden closure highlighted just how fragile even the closest international relationships can be when economic interests collide. Canadian officials insisted it was a temporary, targeted measure designed to send a message, not to punish ordinary people. But to those caught in the middle, it felt like a hostile act, a dramatic shift from the usual spirit of friendship and open borders. The blockade shattered long-held assumptions of easy passage and seamless cooperation, leaving Alaskans feeling isolated and Americans everywhere questioning the future of this crucial cross-border relationship. Communities on both sides began to wonder how long the standoff would last, and what it might mean for their livelihoods. The friendly handshake at the border had turned into a closed fist, signaling a new era of uncertainty and tension between two neighbors who once prided themselves on their open, peaceful border. South of the border, outrage erupted, especially from former President Donald Trump. Trump blasted Canada online, calling the blockade a betrayal and vowing swift retaliation. He framed the issue as disrespect, not just a trade dispute, and accused Canada of taking advantage of the US. His message was simple: they can't do that to us, a sentiment that resonated with many Americans. Trump's strong confrontational language escalated the situation, turning a regional dispute into a national insult. He promised tough action, hinting at tariffs and a review of US-Canada agreements. The story dominated headlines, putting immense pressure on the current administration to respond. Trump's response made the standoff personal, fueling national pride and frustration. In the midst of one of his most animated tirades, former President Donald Trump made a jaw-dropping proposal that left both Americans and Canadians stunned. He suggested that Canada should just become the 51st state of the United States. The idea, delivered with his signature bravado, immediately set social media abuzz and sparked heated debates on both sides of the border. "No more border problems if there's no border," he posted, pitching it as a win-win for everyone involved. Trump argued that by erasing the border, both countries could avoid the hassle of customs, immigration, and trade disputes that have long been a source of tension. He claimed it would end decades of disputes, give the US access to Canada's vast natural resources, like oil, timber, and minerals, and offer Canadians the supposed benefits of American economic and military strength. Trump painted a picture of prosperity and unity, as if merging two of the world's largest economies could be as simple as signing a contract. Canadians, unsurprisingly, dismissed the idea as completely absurd. For them, national pride and a strong sense of independence are at the heart of their identity. The thought of giving up their sovereignty and unique culture was met with disbelief and even a bit of humor. Canadian leaders, from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to opposition politicians, either laughed it off or condemned it as disrespectful and out of touch with reality. Many saw it as an insult to Canada's history and values. Trump's proposal was classic distraction, outrageous, headline-grabbing, and completely detached from the real issues facing both countries. It dominated news cycles, but few took it seriously as a genuine policy suggestion. He framed it as a business deal, as if merging two nations was no different than a corporate merger. But in doing so, he ignored the deep cultural, political, and historical differences that define the US and Canada. For Canadians, the idea of joining the US is unthinkable. It goes against their national pride, their values, and their desire to chart their own course in the world. The proposal only strengthened their resolve to remain independent. The idea of statehood is nothing more than a political fantasy, a headline-grabbing notion, not a real solution to any actual problem. It's a conversation starter, not a policy. Trump's deal may sound simple on the surface, but for nearly 40 million Canadians, it's a non-starter. Their sense of identity and community runs far deeper than any borderline. In the end, the proposal only highlighted how far apart the two nations truly are, not just geographically, but in spirit, values, and vision for the future. Let's break down why Canada joining the US is impossible. First, Canadians would have to agree, and there's zero appetite for dissolving their nation. National pride and a distinct identity make the idea a non-starter for any Canadian party. Even if Canadians wanted it, the US would face massive political hurdles. Canada's population would instantly shift the balance of power in Congress, likely electing more Democrats and upending the system. Both parties would be wary of such unpredictable change. The legal and logistical challenges, merging laws, economies, and even the monarchy, are staggering. It would take decades of negotiation if it could happen at all. In short, Canadian statehood is pure fantasy, a wild idea with no basis in reality. It's like solving a neighborly dispute by knocking down the walls and merging your homes into chaos. Adding a new state isn't easy. It's a long political process outlined in the US Constitution. Historically, new states started as US territories, petitioned Congress, and faced years of debate and compromise. Even Alaska and Hawaii, already U.S. territories, waited decades for statehood. Each new state changed the political landscape, often sparking fierce battles in Congress. Now compare that to Canada, a sovereign nation, not a U.S. territory. There's no precedent for absorbing an independent, developed country. The rules for statehood weren't designed for this scenario. It would require new treaties and unimaginable political agreement. Statehood is a deliberate, challenging process, not a quick fix for a border dispute. History shows, merging nations isn't as simple as drawing a new line on a map. Before the border crisis, US-Canada relations were already strained by a trade war. The US imposed tariffs on Canadian goods like steel and lumber. Canada retaliated with tariffs on American products. This tit-for-tat hurt businesses and raised prices for consumers on both sides. Companies struggled with higher costs, and those costs trickled down to everyday people. The blockade is the physical result of these economic tensions, Canada using its control of the Alaska Highway as leverage. What started as a trade dispute has become a real-world crisis, disrupting supply chains and livelihoods. Economic disagreements can quickly escalate, turning friendly borders into battlegrounds. The lesson: trade wars don't just hurt politicians, they hit regular people hardest. The Alaska Highway blockade is proof that economic weapons have real-world consequences. While national leaders argue, Alaska's local officials are taking action. The governor and legislators are reaching out to British Columbia and Yukon leaders, aiming to de-escalate tensions locally. They're emphasizing decades of cooperation and drafting resolutions urging a swift, sensible solution. Alaska is exploring alternatives, like boosting ferry service to bypass the blockade, even if it's slower and costlier. Local leaders are providing clear information to reduce confusion and anxiety. Their pragmatic approach shows that real diplomacy often happens far from national capitals. By focusing on shared interests, they're building bridges even as others threaten to burn them. Alaska's leaders are proving that those closest to the problem are best equipped to find solutions. Beyond politics, this crisis is about real people. Truckers stranded, businesses struggling, families disappointed. Yet in border towns, citizens are keeping the spirit of cooperation alive. Community groups in Yukon bring food to stranded drivers. Alaskan businesses share resources to weather the disruption. These acts of kindness show that, despite government disputes, neighbors still support each other. Businesses are adapting, finding new shipping routes, coordinating tourism messaging, and focusing on shared strengths. The border is more than a line, it's where lives and economies intertwine. While politicians argue, local communities choose cooperation over conflict. Their resilience offers hope that goodwill and common sense will eventually restore the lifeline to Alaska. In the end, it's the people, not the politics, who keep the connection alive.